What's going on, everybody? So guys, we have the Fusion schedule released today. I did not do a video going over the Fusion plans. If you guys would like for me to do one, let me know. I can definitely do that. But I've seen so many other people doing it that I figured those will be plenty. Now, with that said, in this plan, you have a few decisions to make. One, are you going for the Fusion or not? I think he's an awesome Fusion champion, but maybe you're too busy. The next is, should you get a copy of the Epic to use her? Is she going to be used anywhere? And then maybe you have a question, is the rare very good? If you have that question, let me know, and maybe I can do a video on that. But either way, the Epic. If you're going for the Fusion, you're completing everything, you have the decision, do you pick up an extra copy of the Epic? Will she be used? Or is it okay to just skip that? Can you just pick up a copy of the Epic and then skip 4 events? That's probably what I'll be doing, but let's jump in here and compare this champion. Now, when we're doing this comparison, it's going to be Lightward Siendra compared to Ethlen as well as Genbo. The reason why I chose these two champions is because both of these champions are well known to be very high quality, epic Void Affinity champions. So we're not going to care about affinity, nothing like that. So the arena, different areas, they're all going to be pretty equivalent as far as the utility, hopefully. We'll see though. So with Ethlen, +4, no blessing. The empowerment bonus is 573. He has no accessories. Genbo is +3. No blessing. The empowerment bonus is 423. I do have a small ring to give us an extra little chunk of attack, so we can kind of even this out. And then for Siendra, there is no empowerment, no blessing equipped, so we have no extra attack, and I went ahead and given her a +16 ring to even out the attack on all these champions. Now, Siendra has the highest base attack. I believe Genbo has the lowest base attack, and then Ethlen has the second highest base attack at 1432. How we're going to be doing these tests is basically going to be a notepad. Let me see if I can pull up the notepad real quick. Let me block out the screen so I don't end up maybe leaking secret notepad information. But we're going to do a highly, highly professional test using a notepad. Now, I do want to give another, I guess, a disclaimer, an announcement basically that, hey, all these masteries are exactly the same. We do have masteries. Matter of fact, I'm considering turning off Helm Smasher. Let's actually do that. Let's actually just use a little bit of masteries. We'll do these first two because Helm Smasher procs sometimes cause things to get kind of out of whack because they'll proc Helm Smasher, there'll be some ignored defense we don't actually need, and the numbers look kind of weird. We're going to use Ghostborn in this team with Arbiter, so we are going to have some buffs, which Siendra is going to benefit from those. Her passive skill is going to boost her attack by 2% for each buff they receive. And this, as far as I'm aware, doesn't just drop off. So later in the fight, she's going to get an extra 30% attack, which could be a pretty big impact, especially considering she has the highest base attack. Extra 30% on top of 1509 times 0.3 is going to be an extra 452 attack. Basically, an extra ring equipped to this champion, which is pretty good. So let's go ahead and test this out. The first champion we're going to see the damage of is going to be Ethlen. So how to do this, we're going to go Arbiter, Speed Boost, into Ghostborn's A3. And then Ethlen, we're going to go the A3 of him into the A2 because that's how you're going to do any basically nuking strategy. The A3 does give increased accuracy plus increased crit damage. We're going to do this A2 skill, see what it hits for, and then we're just going to back out. We're going to go to the notepad and say, okay, how much damage did Mr. Ethlen do? Ethel did 358k. 358k. Now let's do one more hit. This one will be basically full auto. We don't have to worry about manual in it until we get to Ethlen's turn. Okay, no, he's going to do the same thing. Sweet. Now, one key thing to pay attention to here is the block active skills. So we'll notice that each one of these champions does bring something unique to them that the other ones don't bring. So 356,000 damage there. So 356k. And then let's go into Genbo. So we have block active skills there with Ethlen. We have the increased crit damage. We have the increased accuracy as well. So very good kit. We have 10% defense ignore when attacking support, defense, and HP champions, which I got a feeling most of those champions in that first wave do meet that criteria. So keep that in mind when you're making these comparisons. Now, for the build with Ethlen, I did go 100% crit rate because he doesn't give any crit rate boost to himself. For Genbo, as well as Siendra, I have given him 70% crit rate. So the gear presets for the other two are going to be the same. Ethlen has a slight adjustment. So we have 70 crit rate nuke here. So this is going to give, well, 80% crit rate. We could optimize this a little bit more. But for example, if we go to Ethlen, it should just drop his stats a little bit to make up for the extra crit rate. Let's see. So yeah, in the other build, he has 200 less attack. He actually has a little bit more crit damage, which hopefully doesn't make a huge difference, but keep that in mind when you're making these comparisons that Ethlen does have a slightly different build, just because he doesn't give plus 30% crit rate to himself. So we have this build for Genbo, 239, 5439 attack. Go ahead and swap that over. For Genbo's kit, we do the increased crit rate, increased crit damage. We have the AoE attack that decreases the duration of all buffs by 1 turn, can't be resisted. And his passive makes him immune to decreased attack and also ignores unkillable buffs when attacking under increased attack. So things like Swift Parry in the arena are not as big of a deal to him because he'll just go through them. Things like Leor's is unkillable, not that big of a deal. He'll just go through them. So something to consider with him, but also increased crit rate, increased crit damage, big A2 skill. There's our damage. So Mr. Genbo, what did you do? You did 362,000. So Genbo, 362K. Doesn't even matter if it's the K or not. I know what kind of damage it is. 362, and then we go one more time. See what they're getting here. There we go. A2. Ignore defense across the board, of course. And then second hit does 355. So, 355. Now for Siendra, the champion who we really want to see the difference of. We'll come in here, do a similar thing. Of course, their base stats are going to make their attacks a little bit different because, for example, Genbo has 5439 attack currently, but then we switch this over to Siendra, she should have more because she has a higher base attack. Yeah, so she has 57, 56, which is good. I don't want to lower that. We don't want to make all the attacks equal because that's making the base stats have less of an impact. It's kind of nerfing some of the champions if I did that. So we're not going to do that. Remember, her blessing is not actually doing anything because it's not equipped. There's no blessing on her. So let's see what kind of damage she actually does. She does not have an extra turn ability. Instead, what she has, which is pretty unique, I think actually one of the few champions I've ever seen this on. Actually, I don't know of any others that have this. She has an AoE attack that before she attacks, she places increased accuracy and increased crit rate on this champion, but then increases the duration of all buffs on this champion if this attack is critical. So she's placing the increased crit rate and increased accuracy, and then she's extending the duration of her buffs so that basically this 2-turn buff, potentially extended more by masteries, is going to be extended even more because of this ability. So basically, you can just build her with 70% crit rate all the time, and she's going to be good. As long as you're not like locked out or stripped, she's going to be fine. So her A3 skill, let's see what it does. We'll go ahead and back out. I'm not going to say if it's good or bad. I don't really know. 350,000. Okay, which is actually good to see because others did 358, 356. Actually, it's pretty similar to all the others. She has no empowerment. May or may not make much of a difference. She does have the ring to make up for it, though. Do the A3 again. Go ahead and back out. So, 340. That is the lowest number we've seen so far. 340,000. Now, there is something to remember, though. She is going to start getting her attack boosted when we bring more buffs. So, just with these numbers we have, Ethlen did really good. 358 and 356. Genbo seemed to be hitting the hardest. They're honestly all pretty close. Siendra is the furthest off, but I also think that she is the champion with the least utility. So Ethlen has the block actives AoE. That's pretty impactful, honestly, very impactful. Genbo has the ability to ignore unkillable, plus immune to decreased attack, which is quite massive, plus reduce the duration of enemy buffs. Ethlen, like I said, block actives AoE, some defense ignore stuff, extra turns, and then an A1 skill that places a shield for him. Not a huge deal, but has a very interesting A2 skill. And then we have Siendra, who, if we take a look at her kit, she has a cool, interesting ability on the skill 3. Then her A2 is a 1-hit 2 times. Each hit will steal 30% of the target's turn meter if it's critical, which it should be. So basically a 60% turn meter steal. Not quite an extra turn, but if they have high turn meters very close to an extra turn, let's see if we were to take her, if we scale her up even higher and say, okay, we're going to go the highest attack possible. Let's see. So 30% attack boost should be off of, I scaled it originally off of that 1500 number. It should actually be off of this number, I do believe. I'm actually certain though. At first I did it off of the 1500 number. I think she had 5,000. I mean, this is a decent comparison here. 5,000 times 0.3 is 1,500 extra attack. And then times, if we tried it versus 7,200 attack times 0.3, it's going to be 2,160. So I'm fairly sure that it would scale based off of the total attack and not the base attack for this. But either way, she's gonna be ramping up very quickly or very significantly. Like now we're doing 651. So as far as the upper limits of damage, Siendra does win out here, it seems. Actually, let's take this a step further and compare it to a Genbo who has got a good blessing on him. So take this Genbo right here. It's a +4 Genbo. Take the same gear over to him. Now he's a +4. He's a big dude. We'll take these pieces off the bottom because he doesn't need this. Keep the comparison as fair as possible. And then instead of Crushing Rend, we'll put on Heaven Cast because it'll be a little bit more fair. 2% instead of 1.5%. And see what he hits for. Ethlen is going to basically fall off at this point as far as where the damage gets left off at, because there's nothing more to scale his damage higher that I can do, but she will continue to scale. That's interesting. So he uses A2 and then his A1. See what he hits for. All right, so hit number 1, we did 506,000. Okay, that's pretty interesting. That is cool to see, though. It's up to you, basically. I'm not going to say whether you should do one thing or not. Basically, what I'm seeing here is that she scales better than the other Void Affinity nukers. So if you have the ability to push that high-end gear threshold, then she could do better for you. But if you don't, maybe she doesn't. So that's quite interesting. So Genbo 472 that time. Actually, he has masteries as well. So when you start to max her out, actually, he doesn't have masteries. I was wrong. But he has plenty of crit rate anyways, right? Yeah, he's good on crit rate. So when you start to max her out with her potential, she becomes very powerful. So we did a few showcases of her A3 skill, but let's do a little bit more here. Let's see what it hits for if she was to scale up to that 30% number, as well as see what her A2 does as far as damage. So we'll just go, we'll go the A3 first because we need the increased crit rate and everything. And then we'll use the A2 when we come back around. Genbo has no gear, so don't pay attention to his damage anyways. This is the +4 Genbo this time, though. Go kill that target. Let's use the A2 over here on the Cardinal. So turn it to 1x speed. The A2 does 80. Okay, so like 150,000 damage. It's a pretty good hitting A2 skill, honestly. Decreased defense on the target. We have no Helm Smasher. So if Helm Smasher proc, it'd be even better. That's some pretty good numbers, honestly. So then we go with the A1. What does it hit for? 139,000 on the A1 skill. That's a hard-hitting A1. So all of our abilities are hitting pretty well, which is good to see. The A1, I think, also has some buff steal stuff or something along those lines. Let's see. So it has a chance of stealing one random buff from the target. If it's critical, has a 100% chance of stealing random buff from the target instead. That's pretty nice. 143,000. So her A1 is smacking pretty hard. But now we go into this next wave, and this is where we're going to start capping her out as far as buffs and stuff. So we had multiple buffs that first time. We have multiple more here. We're going to extend them and hopefully hit the best she has so far. So hundreds of 1,000 plus on every champion. Then her A2 should be able to take basically any of these champions down. Let's use the highest HP one, which looks like to be that Urogrim right there. Okay, not quite. So we did 170,000 there basically. We don't have Helm Smasher, so remember that. No Helm Smasher on the champion yet. Her A1 seems to be hitting as hard as her A2 skill. So her A2 is stealing Turn Meter, but her A1, 123 plus stealing a buff, so now we get even more scaling if we didn't already have that. I think it should scale, or maybe not though. Let's see. So this is for each buff they receive, so stolen or whatever is fine. So do the A3 again. So she's hitting pretty hard. And you see that mostly when you scale her up with better gear, more all these stats. She's going to be scaling much better than these other. Where Genbo and Ethlen kind of have a cap. They're better. They're definitely better as far as, you know, the ignoring unkillable. If you're trying to do that, Genbo's going to win out. Block actives. If you're trying to do that, Ethlen's going to win out. If your gear isn't very good and you don't have a ton of buff champions, like maybe you just have Arbiter, then Siendra isn't going to be able to showcase her true potential, I don't believe. But if you're able to pull a good blessing for her, if you're able to get some good attack pieces on her, if you have plenty of buffs with her, she can do pretty well as far as damage goes. She is hitting quite hard, honestly, for an epic champion. Now, typically these champions are going to be used in the arena, so it really would be just based on your arena team. I personally still prefer Ethlen or Genbo just because of their utility. They don't bring a whole lot of other skills, so it's kind of just going back to the A1 or their A1s and A2s. Very limited skills. They get extra turns and stuff, so they can cycle through things a little bit better. But her skill 2, being able to steal turn meter, is the closest thing that she has to that whole extra turn ability. Let's jump into the arena one time and give her a shot, actually. Because the more I test her, the more I'm thinking, maybe, just maybe she could be okay. So we'll throw her in place of Georgia here. I want to just do something simple, a simple test. Let's see how this goes. We should be faster now, right? And Armand's or Sify faster would be a little bit surprising. There we go. So now she buffs up. We have all the buffs we need. Thankfully, she doesn't use the fear first thing. We'll use the A2 here. If it's a crit, has a 30% chance, if it's a crit, has a 100% chance of stealing 30% of the target's turn meter. Let's see if we can get this Sify out of speed tune. Dang, okay, so we just chopped her down. 80,000 damage on that Sify. Quite impressive. Let's see if her A1 kills his Armands. No increased attack. Doesn't quite kill him, unfortunately. Put some more buffs on her, which is awesome. Stole my turn meter. Does not sheep me, though, which is nice. Fortunate, okay. Well, this is going to be a weak hit, sadly, so not much I can do there. Let's try one more time with her just A3 instead of the A2. The A2 doesn't seem to hit super hard compared to the A1, honestly. So we're going to get the ally attack going off here. She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buffs. I think this just kills everybody. Okay, does kill everybody, actually. Very nice. Let's see if her A1 kills the Sify. I think it will kill the Sify. She's the tankiest here. 48,000 damage on the A1 to the Sify. Very cool. We got the polymorph off. But let's see if we can just kill the sheep and then kill the Armands. Dang, okay, so her A2 is hitting quite hard, honestly. Let's go against this team. Maybe a little bit difficult because we got the... actually, no, it'd be fine. Do this. Okay. 100k on all those champs. So, I mean, granted, this is stacked champions we have here. We have Shuzin plus Necrit. Of course, it could be an Arbiter plus a bolster champion. We're just trying to keep her alive. So the specific champions, that's not a great idea. But she did well. We don't have decreased defense on any of these champs. She's not very tanky, of course. She's a very squishy champion, which, I mean, what else would you expect, right? Let's see what we do here. We could run a decreased defense option for sure. But I feel like this is just the best showcase I can do. Let's open with the A2 this time on the air base. See if we can just steal some of that turn meter. So we stole basically all of it. We boosted up enough to where we should get another turn before air base cuts in. Actually, no, we didn't. Not quite. Because we are pretty low speed still. Remember that. Like she's what, 220 maybe? We got an A2 skill, which is not going to be able to do much, unfortunately. We can get the block buffs back on her. Just kills her. If we were to just go... We can't reset the matches, unfortunately. So we're very limited on the test server here. But what I'm thinking is that she is decent damage. She's solid damage. Doesn't have the utility that the other ones do, necessarily. She brings a buff duration increase on her, which is pretty cool. She hits hard. I mean, 100,000 across the board is pretty good. We'll block actives on maybe nobody, actually. We'll go ahead and get her. I feel like she can kill the Marius. That just may be too high of hopes, though. She does. 40,000 damage. I could put... I don't have Cat's Gaze or anything like that to put on her. But if I did, it could be pretty decent. But she's sinking in good damage overall, I'd say. So it's not too bad. So guys, basically, if you want to get the copy of the Epic, I think where she would be good is players who are coming up for a nuker in the arena. But then again, it's like Alice is going to be better than her. Alice brings other utility. Alice is going to be... you already have a 5-star blessing for her. She's going to hit pretty hard. She's going to have good stuff to work with. She's not Void Affinity. But I personally don't see a situation where you would use her. Maybe in High Elf Faction Wars. And if you don't have Ethlen, then that comparison doesn't even matter, right? But if you're able to push her up in stats, the higher stat you get, the better she's going to perform, of course. This is not going to be very realistic for a lot of players, I'm sure. But it's going to scale very similarly. She's going to outscale a lot of your damage dealers who don't increase their attack. She's going to hit harder than them, but she doesn't necessarily bring anything that's super unique in my opinion. The turn meter steal is cool, but it's not an extra turn levels of cool. If this ability had an extra turn, it'd be a little bit of a different opinion. This is nice. This is cool, but it does hit hard. There's no extra turns involved. So it kind of just makes her to where I can't really recommend her to be anywhere. So I'm not going to say, hey, yeah, you should keep her. I really think if you're going for the fusion, just getting the fusion is going to be the best option. And if you miss a copy of the epic, you're going to be fine. The people who could be using her are probably going to be players who haven't completed Faction Wars and maybe for Clan Siege. But even then, I mean, there's better legendaries. Of course, there's a Galathyr up there, which you have to worry about if you're going against a higher level clan. But down here, she's probably one of the top damage dealers, I'd say. But I mean, you have champions like Ethlen, who she's not going to be able to deal with very well. Like, if Ethlen's on defense, wherever that dirty champion's at, yeah, if he's on defense, she just can't get through him anyways. Like, for a high elf only room. She does hit hard, though. She does hit quite hard. I'd say Ethlen was probably the best epic damage dealer for high elves. And now Siendra is fairly close. The defense ignore is not around on Siendra, but the damage, I believe, will be higher. It definitely, it's going to be higher when she scales more, for sure. Definitely will be. But either way, guys, thank y'all very much for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Maybe it gives you some ideas on if you should go for the epic or skip the epic. I don't think you'll ever really need the champion personally, but your account is yours and you know it better than I do. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.